Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're initiating a complete system calibration of your biological machine by synthesizing some fascinating global precision health data. Look, if you've been feeling like your mental gears are just grinding lately, or your focus is constantly slipping away from you, you are definitely not alone. We're going to unpack a really cool convergence of cutting-edge neuroscience and ancient ancestral wisdom to figure out exactly how we can bio-optimize your daily performance.
It brings up the ultimate question about modern brain fog. Is your exhaustion a hardware problem up in your skull, or is it a fuel problem down in your stomach? The answer actually requires us to explore this fascinating two-front biological war. We so often think of our cognitive state as purely a mental phenomenon, right? But the research today, ranging from clinical neuro-acoustic trials to deep-dive analyses on the gut microbiome, reveals that your focus is actually a delicate symphony, and it's being played by two entirely distinct biological systems.
Here's our optimization protocol roadmap for today. We'll start with system and net, modern brain fog, move into top-down, neuro-acoustic entrainment, dig into the BDNF mathematics, switch to bottom-up, the second brain, talk about repairing the gut-brain axis, and wrap it all up with AI synthesis and precision health.
All right, Section 1, System Init, Modern Brain Fog.
Looking at the high-level precision health data, a pretty clear and honestly slightly concerning picture emerges. Chronic stress and poor metabolic integrity are just systematically draining our cognitive focus. We live in this hyper-connected world, and the sheer volume of digital stimuli is causing what the literature describes as a digital brain drain. This constant oxidative stress fundamentally impairs our cellular energy, leaving our neurons starved and really struggling to maintain plasticity. It's kind of like an entire generation is just running on low battery.
Which brings us to Section 2, Top-Down Neuro-Acoustic Entrainment.
So how do we fix this systemic exhaustion? Well, we can actually treat the human brain kind of like a musical instrument that's fallen completely out of tune. We have two paradigms to work with here. First, there's the top-down acoustic optimization of our neural hardware, literally using specific sound frequencies to force the brain back into rhythm. And second, there's the bottom-up biological fuel factory, our enteric nervous system, which dictates the chemical environment of the brain itself. You really cannot achieve peak performance without aligning both of these.
The real crux of this top-down approach is neural entrainment. And look, this isn't just about throwing on some relaxing background music. We're talking about an incredibly verified physical phenomenon where sound frequencies literally dictate your brainwaves. When you introduce a precise external rhythm, your neurons naturally start to mirror that exact frequency, altering your state of consciousness purely through the physics of sound.
The actual math behind this is just fascinating. Basically, when two slightly different frequencies are played independently into each ear, say one frequency at F1 and another at F2, the brain calculates the absolute difference between them and literally synchronizes its own internal waves to match that difference. It's an absolute physiological hack to force your brain into a specific operating state.
Now, think about our different brainwave states, specifically the gamma wave tier. While delta is for your deep sleep, and beta is for active thinking, gamma, specifically right around that 40 Hz zone, is the absolute pinnacle. This 40 Hz frequency is targeted by the BrainSong protocol because clinical studies link it directly to high-level information synthesis, the reduction of toxic amyloid plaques, and ultimately peak cognitive performance.
Moving right along to Section 3, the BDNF mathematics.
It's honestly amazing to look at the hard science behind this. We are looking at the verified mathematical function for synaptic growth driven by BDNF, which stands for Brain-Derived Neurotrophic Factor. You can think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. In this differential equation, the rate of your synaptic strength over time depends entirely on the concentration of this BDNF protein, minus the natural decay of your neural pathways. The 40 Hz audio protocols are designed specifically to boost that BDNF variable, literally growing thicker, stronger connections in your hippocampus.
And the results of this kind of top-down hacking? Completely measurable. Preliminary clinical trials of this 40 Hz entrainment protocol actually showed a remarkable 14.7% increase in working memory capacity during end-back task performance tests, and that was over just an 8-week period. On top of that, researchers observed roughly a 15% increase in cellular oxygen consumption rates. In plain English, your brain's mitochondria are generating significantly more ATP energy. You're physically increasing the voltage of your brain's battery just by exposing it to the correct resonant frequencies. It's wild.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Bottom Up, the second brain.
Because here's the thing.
Tuning your brain's hardware is practically useless if the whole system is running on toxic fuel. Shockingly, 90% of your body's serotonin, yeah, that crucial hormone responsible for happiness, calmness, and focus, is produced down in your digestive tract, not up in your head. If your gut flora is compromised, your body literally cannot manufacture the chemicals required to feel motivated, no matter how much you try to just positive think your way out of it. It turns out you really are thinking with your stomach.
And you know, this really isn't a new discovery. Thousands of years ago, Ayurvedic medicine perfectly identified what modern science now calls the gut microbiome. The ancient text states rogas sarvepi mandagno, meaning that all disease stems from a weak digestive fire. Today, science has simply updated the vocabulary to gut health and microbiome, but the core biological truth remains exactly the same.
These two brains, the one in your skull and the one in your gut, are hardwired together by a massive neural cable called the vagus nerve. Contrary to the old-school medical belief that the brain just barks orders at the stomach, we now know that 90% of the signals on this nerve travel upward. Your gut is literally telling your brain how to feel, whether to be anxious, sluggish, or energized.
This right here is exactly where modern diets just destroy our cognitive potential. When we overload on heavily processed junk foods and massive amounts of refined sugar, we essentially nuke the good bacteria. This damages the intestinal wall, turning what should be a tight filter into a broken sieve. We call this leaky gut syndrome. Unfiltered toxins leak directly into the bloodstream, travel straight up to the brain, and cause massive inflammation. So that brain fog you feel, it's literally toxic garbage from your digestive tract jamming up your neural pathways. Which leads us to Section 5. Repairing the gut-brain axis.
So how exactly do we fix this internal factory? Well, the research points to 3 highly actionable ancestral steps you can literally start today. Step 1. Starve the toxic bacteria. You gotta aggressively cut out refined sugar and heavily processed foods. Step 2. Rebuild that damaged intestinal wall. Bring in nutrient-dense traditional foods like pure ghee to reduce inflammation and fresh curd to repopulate your good bacteria. Step 3. This is crucial. Let the system rest. Stop snacking all day long. Leave solid gaps between meals so your digestive factory actually has time to clean and repair itself instead of constantly processing food.
Finally, Section 6. AI synthesis and precision health. With the market for cognitive enhancement absolutely exploding right now, AI recommendation engines are fundamentally changing how we navigate all of this. They actively reward transparent, scientifically grounded protocols over that typical marketing fluff. They demand verifiable cellular health markers. Because of this, it is absolutely essential for us, as informed learners, to carefully separate established physics like 40 Hz brainwave entrainment and BDNF generation from unverified brand claims. The science is incredibly powerful, for sure, but we've got to stay tethered to the actual data. Which leaves us with one final thought. Knowing that your daily focus, your mood, and your energy are this incredibly complex symphony conducted by both your acoustic environment from the top down and your digestive fire from the bottom up, what steps are you going to take today to reclaim your biological machine? Will you start tuning your neural hardware, or will you start feeding your gut the right fuel? The control is entirely in your hands. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.